Hi guys, welcome to another session on Host No More. So today I will be talking about the skillful coping with narcissistic abuse. But I will first have to post this on this link on Facebook and Quora. So please bear with me while I do that. You can come back in 5 or 10 minutes time because it's gonna take 5 or 10 minutes for me to post the links on Facebook. Uh, yeah, I'll just type here, come back, start. I'll be starting here. Starting in 5 minutes. Okay, guys, I think that's done. So we're gonna start now, 9:25. So I'm gonna start with right effort from Buddhism. So, oftentimes when we are facing a narcissist, it's very hard to find just the right response, or just the right reaction to just the right response to their to their abuse, to um, how they how they attack us, because they study us, because they are very good at studying us, our every response, and counter our every response in a very calm, in a very confident, in a very calculated way, such that we are not able to, such that we are caught off guard, and that we are not able to escape, because we will feel like we are being trapped, like every corner is blocked, that there is simply no escaping the abuse, because however we respond, they are always 2 steps ahead, 10 steps ahead of us. They're always watching us. So it's that we will always kind of feel like there's no way out, whenever we are in a narcissistic abuse, whenever we are facing it. So in this right effort that I'm going to talk about, I will be touching on how we can find just the right response, and and find a solution to this problem, because the problem is the abuse, and every problem has a solution. I believe that every problem has a solution if you find hard enough to find it, and that nobody is perfect. However perfect the narcissist may seem, however powerful they are, there is always a way out. So, this is what I want to talk about today, which is the right effort. And when we are not able to find a way out, when we have to incur damage from the abuse, then I advise you to detach and just accept not to just accept it, but escape whenever you can. But when you do, when you have to incur damage from it, when it's an absolute, when it's inevitable, then I encourage you to let it go, and not dwell on it, not contemplate, not ruminate on it, and not feel bad or shameful about it. So I encourage you to just let it go, let it pass through you. So, but if you can, try to respond in the right way, which is what this video is about. So, right effort. Let's go right into it. Right effort is the 6th step on the Buddha's Noble Eightfold Path. Effort is the catalyst that brings the other qualities on the path into being, and the other qualities of the path into being, and then animates them. So the Noble Eightfold Path is the path leading to enlightenment, which is the end of all suffering. And the right effort is one of the three in the Eightfold Path. So there's 3 sections in the Eightfold Path. One is morality, concentration, and wisdom. So those are the 3 main sections in the Noble Eightfold Path. So in morality, we have right actions, right speech, and right livelihood. In concentration, we have right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. And in wisdom, we have right understanding and right thoughts, or right views. So, so in concentration, one of the main thing in concentration, one of the supporting thing in concentration, is right effort. So right effort is required for concentration. And in this article, they are going to talk about right effort in how to overcome your bad thoughts, unwholesome thoughts and decisions and actions, unwholesome volitions. So this is more on your own effort, against your own inner demons, against your own evil intentions, against your own self-indulgence, or laziness, or any negativity that you have within yourself. but I want to use this strategy, this right effort strategy, to find the right response to our outer demons, to the narcissist as well. So yeah, so this is what I'll be talking about. Let's just go right into it again. Continuing with the article. Thus, for example, although we all have the potential to be mindful, we may never have been until we heard about it and appreciated its value and utility. We might then make an effort to be mindful and become so. Having become mindful, at least for a while, we might then try to strengthen this ability and the depths of our mindfulness. Effort, determination, and vigor are essential in every step of this process. I want to stop here for a while. I forgot to pop up the chat. Just bear with me for a second. Okay, I think that should be fine. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. Okay. Right, sorry. Let's just continue. So thus, for example, although we all have the potential to be mindful, we may never have been mindful until we heard about it and appreciated its value and utility. We might then make an effort to be mindful and become so. Having become mindful, at least for a while, we might then try to strengthen this ability and the depth of our mindfulness. Effort, determination, and vigor are essential in every step of this process. So as I said just now, the three things is right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. One of the three paths in the Eightfold Path is right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. So right mindfulness requires right effort. So right effort is almost like a fuel for mindfulness to grow. So effort, determination, and vigor are essential in every step of this process. The Buddha defined right effort like this. And what is right effort? One generates the desire to prevent the arising of unskillful states not yet arisen, the desire to give up unskillful states already arisen, the desire to develop skillful states not yet arisen, the desire to nurture and further develop skillful states already arisen. So one makes an effort, exerts energy, focuses and directs one's mind to these ends. So the four things, right? Prevent unskillful states not yet arisen, eliminate unskillful states already arisen, or give up unskillful states already arisen, develop skillful states not yet arisen, and develop skillful states already arisen. So these four simple things in right effort is what the Buddha defined the right effort as. However, the Buddha always pointed out that simply gritting one's teeth and straining can sometimes be counterproductive. Effort is to exert energy, but right effort is more subtle and nuanced than that. So this is almost like playing smart rather than playing hard. We are at life, rather than working real hard at life, we are working smart. We need to work smart as well. So this is what right effort is about. So in fact, right effort is a little like rowing a boat. Sorry. Okay. In fact, right effort is a little like rowing a boat. To get the boat where one wants to go is not simply a matter of pulling at the oars. Firstly, the oars have to be pulled in unison. When we are going against the current, we may really have to pull hard, right? When we are going against the current, we may really have to pull hard. When going with the current, we may not have to pull it at all. To keep going in the right direction, we might only have to pull on the left oar, and at other times only on the right one. So thus, to be right, effort has to be balanced against other factors. Its intensity must be adjusted according to circumstances, and we have to know when to relax and let things unfold naturally. As the Buddha said, if you try too hard, you get agitated. And if you do not try too hard, if you do not try hard enough, you stagnate. So right effort can also be translated as right endeavor or right diligence. In this factor, the practitioners should make a persistent effort to abandon all the wrong and harmful thoughts, words, and deeds. The practitioner should instead be persisting in giving rise to what would be good and useful to themselves and others in their thoughts, words, and deeds, without a thought for the difficulty or weariness involved. In the Chinese and Pali canon, it explained thus. I want to go back to this oars thing first. The rowing the boat. So much like facing narcissistic abuse, we need to, you know, uh, this is a great analogy to narcissistic abuse, facing narcissistic abuse, where when we are facing it, we need to find just the right response, not just the right response, but we need to adjust our response according to the situation. So it's not always, there's not always a surefire method that always work, and we can't always just rely on just one method. We need to tailor our strategies, our protection defense strategies, our trauma prevention strategies, our escaping strategies, our counter attack strategies. Sometimes we do need to counter abuse them so that we can ward them off, because narcissists don't feel anything. So if you're abusing a narcissist, if you're attacking them, you're simply having leverage over them. You're not hurting them because they can't be hurt, because they have already destroyed their emotions, they have already destroyed their soul. So when you're abusing them, they don't see it as, they're not human, they don't have humanity. So when you're abusing someone for your own safety, that is something that you have to do sometimes. So right effort is tailoring your strategies, whatever it is, to the situation, to whatever is happening around you, so that you can find the perfect response to escape, or to do whatever you need, to save yourself. So like rowing the boat, like the rowing boat analogy, where you have to go with the current or against the current. You have to row the boat according to the current, according to the weather, according to whatever is happening around you, you know or whether the boat is being damaged or whatever. So yeah, so that is right effort. So I think I'm not going to continue with this, because you can read it for yourself if you want at China Buddhism encyclopedia.com /n/index.php /right effort. So you can go to this website if you want, Chinese Buddhist Encyclopedia, right effort. But I won't touch more on this, because this is more on how to skillfully eradicate your unskillful thoughts, words, and deeds, and develop your skillful thoughts, words, and deeds already arisen and not yet arisen. So these are more on how to overcome your own inner demons, rather than how to overcome an abuse that's happening in reality against you, like external forces. So I won't touch more on this, because this is more of a not a self-development, this is more of a self-enlightenment practice, self-purification practice, which is very much important in coping and healing from narcissistic abuse. But then what I want to touch on today is to face when we are facing the abuse at that moment, at that moment of abuse. How do we cope with it when we are being abused? Whether it's by a coworker, a family member, or a neighbor or whatever, whoever in our lives that is causing havoc to us at that time. We need to tailor our strategies to the circumstances, because the narcissist is adept. They have practiced years, they have practiced days, every day, year after year, without fail, to study people, to find, just to counter their response, to counter every bit of their response, every minute response they have. They are adept at it. So we need to be able to find the calm within us, and we need to be able to be aware of what is happening, to be aware of whatever is happening. And to start doing that, we need to allow, sometimes we need to allow ourselves to incur the damage. We need to allow ourselves, okay, we need to accept the failure sometimes, the failure of not being able to escape, of incurring damage, of being, of developing trauma from the abuse, and then recovering from it at a later time. But we need to accept the fact that, sometimes it's not possible to escape, and at the same time, I call this the robot mechanic strategy, the mechanical strategy, where you eradicate all of your emotions, where you kill all of your emotions, kill all of your feelings and your soul while you're interacting with the narcissist, so that whatever shit they throw at you, whatever abuse that you're facing, you essentially you essentially become a vessel, a soulless vessel that can take any abuse without incurring damage. So you can take the abuse without feeling terrible about it, without becoming emotionally involved or emotionally terrorized, while at the same time allowing you to analyze their attack, their tactics, their strategies, how they attack, to study them, and to develop, to develop this subconscious, natural ability to counter their attacks in the future. To predict, to be able to predict, to be able to understand how they attack, their systems, their strategies, their tactics, naturally, instinctively, without too much planning, without too much anticipating, without too much hard effort. It's almost like a natural downstream effort rather than the upstream effort. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is detachment, which is related to narcissistic abuse as well, because when we are attached to the narcissist, an example of being attached to the narcissist is that we get emotionally involved, entangled. So for example, when they abuse us, we find ourselves needing to seek revenge, or needing to attack them back, or needing to take back what's ours, or to mess with their minds. We find ourselves in need of destroying them the way that they have destroyed us. So that is an attachment, an attachment to the abuse. So we are also attached in many other ways to the narcissist, but but I want to just talk about detachment. So in detachment, let's just go right into it. In detachment, viveka and viraga are the two Pali words which have been translated as detachment. The two, however, are not synonymous. The primary meaning of viveka is separation. So viveka is separation, aloofness, and seclusion. Often, physical withdrawal is implied. The latter commentarial tradition, however, identifies three forms of viveka: kaya viveka, which is physical withdrawal; chitta viveka, which is mental withdrawal; and upadhi viveka, which is withdrawal from the roots of suffering. So kaya viveka, which is physical withdrawal, as a chosen way of life; physical withdrawal as a chosen way of life, was not uncommon during the time of the Buddha. To withdraw from the household life, renounce possessions, and adopt a solitary mendicancy was a recognized path. So this is asceticism, where you renounce your household life for to pursue the life of an ascetic, right? The formation, so that's physical withdrawal, physical detachment from the world. So the formation of the Buddhist monastic sangha was grounded in the belief that going out from home to homelessness could aid in concentrated spiritual effort. Yet to equate the renunciation which the Buddha encouraged with a physical withdrawal, which either punish the body or completely reject human contact, would be a mistake. So this is in line with the Buddha's teaching of middle path. So physical withdrawal here, the best physical withdrawal here would be to renounce from worldly life, to renounce from human interaction and relationships, and pursue the life of a monk, but at the same time not rejecting human contact completely, and not punishing the body, right? Because the other extreme, from over engagement, from household living, from over indulgence with relationships, with human interactions and connections and intimacy. So the other extreme of that is to self-harm, to isolate yourself drastically, over isolate yourself, and over not isolating. Seclusion is fine, but to reject human contact, meaning if you were to have to face a human, then you would freak out, or you would feel terribly guilty about it. It's almost like this fanatic sense that you need to uphold this seclusion, this isolation from all human beings. That is the other extreme, right? To be over fanatic about rejecting, about excluding yourself from human contact. So that is the middle path, to have to the sweet spot between seclusion and overindulgence. So in line with narcissistic abuse, sorry about this, but in line with this is more about Buddhism, but in line with narcissistic abuse, this is very much similar to being engaged, being inside, being involved with a narcissist and totally rejecting the abuse. So rather than being, sometimes we need to leave the narcissist, but when we are not able to, when we do have to face the abuse, we to reject the abuse would be to cause more distress, would be to cause more harm to ourselves, right? If we reject, for example, if we reject gravity and it still works, then there's no point to rejecting it, because it's gonna happen. If something's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. We need to develop a strategy to face it, face it directly, rather than rejecting it and just denying that it exists or whatever. So right, so this is in line with that. So detachment. So when we do have to face the abuse, when it is inevitable, then we have to detach from it. So the Buddha made it clear that the detachment of that's physical withdrawal, by the way. So the Buddha made it clear that the detachment of a noble disciple, the detachment connected with the path, was not essentially a physical act of withdrawal, let alone austerity. Kaya Viveka was valuable Kaya Viveka was valuable only if seen as a means to inner purging and mental transformation connected with the destruction of craving. This is illustrated in the Udambarika Sihanada Sutta, where in which the Buddha claims that the asceticism of a recluse who clings to solitude could lead to pride, carelessness, attention seeking, and hypocrisy, if not linked to the cultivation of moral virtues and effort to gain insight through meditation. So in this physical withdrawal, we need to, so for example, if we leave the narcissist, here the Buddha said asceticism, which is which is to renounce worldly life, to renounce household living, and living with interacting with other humans without, to renounce the household life, to renounce worldly life. We need in search of spiritual enlightenment, and if we do that with if we cling too hard to solitude, if we cling too much to spiritual enlightenment, then it can lead to pride, carelessness, attention seeking, and hypocrisy. And rather than cultivation of moral virtues and effort to gain insight through meditation. So it is very important to keep in mind whenever we are pursuing spiritual enlightenment, that we need to, pursuing physical withdrawal from worldly pleasures and worldly connections, that we need to, we need to keep in mind our motivation. We need to maintain the right motivation, right? Rather than to, the wrong motivation here would be to pursue solitude at all costs, right? To make sure that you are in solitary mode at all times. That would be the wrong motivation, because that would be a fanatic, and it would be, there would be there would be little benefit from that. Whereas a more deep, a more worthwhile motivation would be to develop spiritual insights and cultivate moral virtues. That would be a better, a more solid, a more a more beneficial motivation. So sorry, in line with that, in line with narcissistic abuse, when we are facing in narcissistic relationships, when we physically withdraw from it, when we leave the narcissist, we are actively creating this boundary. We're actively creating a barrier, a safe bubble for ourselves. And when we are attached to that bubble, when we refuse to accept any form of abuse when it's happening right in our face, then that can lead to a lot of suffering for us. Then that can lead us to the same things as they said, the pride, carelessness, attention seeking, hypocrisy, right? Pride and carelessness, especially, right? When we have to deal with a narcissist, but we deny that we are still within the frequency of a narcissist, that we still have to, face narcissists in our life. That is a reality that we have to face. And to deny that would be prideful and careless, right? And hypocritic, and hypocrite like. Anyways, back to the article. A further insight is given in the Nivapa Sutta, which weaves a lengthy story around the relationship of 4 herds of deer with a certain crop, representing sensual pleasures sown by the hunter for the deer's ensnaring. So both the ascetic who crave for pleasure and those who deny themselves any enjoyment in an extreme way are destroyed. Referring to the latter, the Buddha says, because their bodies are extremely emaciated, their strength and energy diminished, freedom of mind diminished. Because freedom of mind is diminished, they went back to the very crop sown by Mara. Mara is the demon of the god of death, which is the god of illusions, and the demon that creates all of the illusions in the world, that holds all of the suffering in the world, right? Mara is the demon that creates all of the illusions and suffering in the world. So because freedom of mind is diminished, they went back to the very crop sown by Mara. The material things of this world, the material things of this world, that is the very crop sown by Mara. Okay, so what the Buddha said here is that because they have created so much, they have engaged in destroying their physical bodies, not in the name of asceticism, in the name of spiritual enlightenment, they have gone through to extreme emaciation of their bodies, extreme starvation of their bodies. They lack the nutrition, they lack the energy and strength to pursue the freedom and liberation of the mind. So we do need energy, we do need nutrition, and we do need all this, all of the physical necessities, food and interactions. We do need them to some extent, because if we completely deprive ourselves of them, that would be, that would be like cutting off our supply of required nutrients, right? And we wouldn't have the energy, we wouldn't have the faculties to pursue enlightenment, to pursue our freedom of mind. So similar with narcissism, when we completely cut off all interactions with all humans, when we trust no one at all, when we completely destroy any human interaction without giving them any of our trust. And I'm not saying we need to trust people from the get-go. We do need to put a very strong barrier to trust. With narcissists being so prevalent these days, I would encourage you guys to be very careful with trust, to never trust anyone until they give you a solid reason to, right? Until they give you a lot of evidence that they are worthy of your trust. And the most important thing to remember is that when they do something that is dishonest or disloyal, or that is despicable, you need to take back that trust and never give them back again, never give them your trust ever again. When they prove themselves that they are not worthy of your trust, you need to never ever again give it to them, because that is like dishonoring yourself, right? When they prove themselves to be disloyal, or when they betray your trust, then you need to completely starve them of your trust. You need to take it back all the way. No more forgiveness, no more nothing. They don't deserve any bit of it, ever, 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 ever. So that is what is very important about trust. We need to be very careful about it. But sometimes, when we completely starve ourselves of all human interaction, all human trust, then that can be very dangerous. So the most important step to take when we have been abused by narcissists a long time in our lives, for long periods in our life, is to seek support groups, to go to support groups and to find support there, because people there are facing the same abuse. People there have experiences. People there have gone through the same thing that you have gone through, and maybe some people are more advanced than you, that they have completely healed, or they have developed better strategies to cope with narcissistic abuse. So go to a support group and trust lightly the people there, because sometimes people can infiltrate those groups as well. So trust lightly, but don't completely destroy all of your trust. That is not right. You need to go to a support group and get what you need, get the supply that you need, get the nutrients that you need to continue to thrive, to continue to survive in this barbaric narcissistic world. And I do believe that it is a very barbaric world, where everyone is, not everyone, but a lot of people, a lot of them, almost everyone I meet physically is narcissistic and emotionally destructive, psychologically deranged. So I would say, right. Anyways, back to topic. I probably digress a lot, but back to topic. I want to talk about not being too extreme, that we need to find support. And also, sorry, I just lost my train of thoughts. And we also need to, sorry, freedom of mind diminished. So to not starve ourselves completely of support from other people. So finding support in the right places, and also to not starve ourselves of not be too uh, fanatic, not be too absorbed with with avoiding narcissistic abuse, because sometimes it's not possible to avoid it, right? So when we are when we focus all of our energy, all of our life on avoiding narcissistic abuse, then we drain ourselves of our life energy and our life force, and our life becomes dedicated to the narcissist, right? Which is their intent. Our life is consumed by the narcissist, right? Whether they are existing in our lives or not, we become consumed by them because we are always looking over our shoulders. We're always trying to avoid them. We're always trying to create this bubble. We're always trying to leave any narcissistic abuse, any relationship that is narcissistic. We're so caught up in avoiding narcissistic abuse that we actually become consumed by it. you know that becomes our reality. We live in a reality where we are constantly trying to avoid narcissists. So back to the back to the article. The message of the sutta is that, sutta is the Buddhist text, by the way. So the message of the sutta is that ascetic withdrawal can reduce the mind's ability to discern. It can also lead to the repression of mental tendencies rather than their rooting out and destruction. So, so if we withdraw too much from if we withdraw too much physically from the narcissist, then we are actually reducing our mind's ability to discern, to be aware. Because awareness is more important than avoidance, right? So, over withdrawal, extreme withdrawal, would lead to repression of mental tendencies rather than the rooting out and destruction. So rooting out and destruction means eradication of negative mental tendencies, right? Or trauma bonding, or whatever. All the trauma bonding, all of the self sabotage, all of those tendencies. We need those tendencies can be eradicated if we withdraw from the narcissist to a healthy extent, rather than being extreme with it. If we are extreme in withdrawal, if we engage in extreme withdrawal, then we will be repressing our mental tendencies. We would be denying, we would be repressing, we would be stuffing them, we would be burying them and not resolving them, right? Our self-sabotage, our subconscious self-harm, our subconscious self-destructive tendencies, our trauma bonds, our uh, our compulsions related to having been abused by a narcissist. So, and our self-doubt as well. So that is very important, to not go to extreme with withdrawal, right? Or avoiding the narcissist. So the detachment of which Buddhism speaks, therefore, is not an extreme turning away from that which normally nourishes the human body or the human mind. Neither is it a closing of the eyes of all beauty, as is clear from the following. Delightful, Reverend Ananda, is the Gosinga cell wood. It is clearly moonlit night. The cell trees are in full blossom. Methinks deva-like scents are being wafted around. So this is an expression of delight uttered by Sariputta, an arahant, on meeting some fellow monks one night. So one must not look away from external acts and towards the area of inner attitudes and motivation for a true understanding of the role of detachment in Buddhism. Physical withdrawal is only justified if it is linked to inner moral purification and meditation. In this light, Sita Viveka and Upadi Viveka become necessary subdivisions to bring out the full implications of detachment within Buddhist spiritual practice. Upadi Viveka as withdrawal from the roots of suffering, linked to viraga, the second word used within Buddhism to denote detachment. Okay, sorry. So detachment over here, they say the most important thing is to not completely reject all of the things that nourish your body, all of the things that is beauty, that is to close your eyes to all beauty, right? To not completely reject. So this is renunciation, right? This is quite different from narcissistic abuse. So what they're saying here is it is I'm not quite sure, because the text is quite the text is written in quite a old, ancient language, which I'm not quite certain I understand. But what I try to understand here is that the monk is trying to say Sariputta, which is an arahant. An arahant is a enlightened being, an enlightened being who achieves enlightenment by himself, but doesn't necessarily expound the truth. So the enlightened being said that what I understand the enlightenment being said is that he's trying to say that we shouldn't close our eyes to all of life's beauty. We shouldn't completely abstain from all relationships, or all things that is that is loving and sacred and fulfilling. We shouldn't close our eyes to all fulfilling uh, endeavors. We should open our eyes to them. We should accept them with detachment, right? We shouldn't engage in them. We shouldn't be overly involved in fulfilling relationships, overly seeking fulfilling relationships. But we shouldn't completely reject them either. We shouldn't completely, you know, uh, starve ourselves, be so, so extreme in completely avoiding, abstaining all relationships, because that is wrong. To abstain from relationships or connection with anyone is to starve ourselves completely, and that is very dangerous, because it can cause us to have no energy, to lose a purpose in our life, to lose our life force, to lose all to lose all to lose all motivation to live. Like we don't feel like we need to live anymore. So that is very destructive. So we shouldn't do that. We should abstain from relationships with narcissists, abstain from unhealthy relationships, but we shouldn't abstain from all relationships, right? So right, so that's all on detachment. I wouldn't go on this further because I don't think it's relevant to narcissistic abuse. So the next part would be on dark forces in narcissism. So we are done with the skill of coping with narcissistic abuse, the skillful coping. Now we go to dark forces. So in dark forces, I want to talk about Satanism and satanic forces and the practice of Satanism, and how it is so prevalent these days, and how the narcissists use satanic strategies to violate others, to destroy their lives, to abuse others, and get the upper hand, and to trap others in this constant state of self-doubt, constant state of self-sabotage, constant state of no escape, consistent abuse, and to create this bubble of this cage for them. So I want to talk about this Satanism. So this guy, John Ramirez, he's a former satanic cult high priest, but he claims to have an encounter with God, who showed him the way, but it wasn't as God works in, as we know, God works in mysterious ways. God works in not a direct way, because that would be very counterproductive. So God works in a not a covert way, but in a very smart, unseen way. Unseen forces of God pushes the world. So God works in an unseen way, and he encourages John Ramirez, as he would say in one of his talks. If you follow him, he says that God awakened him to his wrong ways, because he practices as a former satanic cult high priest. He practices astral projections and all these satanic practices that creates havoc in people's lives, and his main what do you call that his main motivation is to convert as many followers of God, or as many normal human without with normal human with human conscience, with human empathy, to convert them to the satanic cult. So that is his mission in life, and he does not have any empathy. He did not have any empathy, any conscience, and his main goal in life is to convert as many people to his cult as possible. And if you follow him, you'll see that God, through unseen forces, converted him to become an advocate for people, a priest in a church, for against the satanic cult. So let's go through the video. I probably talked too much right there. Sorry about that.
Satanism, pursuing dark spiritual powers and John Ramirez was a high-ranking priest in Satanism, pursuing dark spiritual powers and actively fighting for evil to rule. He's since left that life, and he's here today to tell us his story. John, tell me, why did you want to get involved in Satanism? Well, what's attractive about that?
Well, I think attractive about Satanism at the age of 8 to the age of 35, that was attracted to it was the power, the controlling, the put fear on people. People respect you. It was a superficial thing that was going on in my life for 25 years of witchcraft, Satanism, killing animal, drinking animal blood, astral projecting, witchcraft for hire, putting witchcraft on people who make a lot of money. All this stuff was going on in my life, and I did it because I felt accepted. I felt important in my life for 25 years.
And it went through your family, like you actually kind of inherited it.
It was the bloodline of my dad, my aunt, going on to parents and all that other stuff, and then we ended up going to witchcraft church, and it just became a lifestyle.
You were born into it, basically.
Exactly, I was born into it, and I was baptized in it at the age of 8 years old. I was baptized into the dark world.
And your dad, of course, rejected you and
Yes.
bullied you and abused you, and so verbally, and in a sense, I guess that opened up the door because Satan kind of presented like your dad, like somebody who would accept you.
Yes, and the devil came and he camouflaged himself as he loved me, and he will be my dad, and he will provide for me. But the devil can't love you because you made an image of God. And the devil will never love someone that's made an image of God. So that's 100% clear.
Okay,
So that's what I want to talk about. The devil will never love you because you're made in an image of God. So all of us have dignity, have self-respect. Normal humans. So what I want to make the distinction here, sorry, the similarity here, the analogy here to narcissistic abuse is that the narcissists are devil-like creatures. They are not humans. They have no empathy, no conscience, no dignity, no self-respect. So us humans, we have humanity, we have empathy, we have light. So the narcissist, however hard they try to convince us that they have our best interest at heart, that they really mean well, that they really are looking out for us, all of those are false. All of their promises, all of their sweetness, kindness, all of their genuine, heartfelt regard for you, all of those are false. So you need to know that they are always looking to, they can't, they can't love you. They don't even love themselves. They are not made of love. They are made of darkness. They are dark to the core, and they will not, they will not love you because you are made in an image of God. So I wouldn't, it's you don't have to believe in God for this to sound true, to ring true to you. But the analogy here is that you are made of light. You are an image of humanity. You have humanity within you, and the narcissist does not. And someone without humanity is always looking to destroy any bit of light in others that has those human qualities. So yes, so anything that they do is false. Don't believe them. Any good things that they do for you is false. Let's just go to the video. I don't want to talk too much again.
So you are absolutely enjoying your time as a warlock, as a high priest. You became very powerful. How in the world did you start in a path to find God in Christianity?
Well, God found me. Because in life we don't find God, He find us, right? Jesus come look for us. We don't have an idea who Jesus is. Many of us today. So my life was on October night. I was preparing for the witchcraft month, Halloween, and the month of October is witchcraft month, and December is witchcraft month. So I was preparing for witchcraft month to do witchcraft on people and curse people in cursed regions and everything. And I many times I challenged Christians, I challenged believers, I challenged church with demonic powers, and I was living a rampant life. I didn't even have a conscience. I didn't have thoughts. I was like I was really the demonic side was engrafted in my life for 25, embedded in my life for 25 years. And one October night, I'm sitting in my bed. I felt, actually a month before that, a month and a half before that, I heard the voice of God for the first time. He said to me, "Son, I'm coming home." I was watching TV. It was during the daytime. "Son, I'm coming home. What are you going to do with your life?" And I couldn't believe it because I knew the voice of the devil. I knew the voice of demons, principalities, familiar spirits, territory spirits. And the first I heard this voice, this peace came over, this voice that spoke to me, and I shook it off. I didn't want nothing to do with it. I saw this image in my living room. I saw an image that the sky was on fire. People were trying to run for cover. And actually, if you read the book of Revelation, it speaks about the sky being on fire. I read that years later. So a month and a half later, I'm in bed. For the first time, I'm feeling oppressed. I'm feeling depression upon me. I'm feeling, I'm feeling like suicidal. And I'm like, what am I going to do? And then I said, well, may I end my life and let my daughter keep the insurance money? I got one daughter, and I said, I leave her the insurance money. But that night, I said, Jesus or God, whatever they call you, I'm not going to serve you. I'm not signing for no Christianity. That's not my life. I'm a devil worshiper. I'm gonna die as a devil worshiper. I want nothing to do with the church or Christ or all this Christian stuff. Nothing to do. But I felt like I was falling to the anesthesia sleep. And as I was falling to this anesthesia sleep.
So I think he as a former satanic cult, he didn't have conscience, and he didn't have all those empathy. He didn't have feelings, right? He killed all of his inner feelings so that he could best execute all of those evil acts on people without feeling guilt or having any emotional consequence for it. And when he felt the love of God, as he said, from unseen forces, as he felt that, all of those depression and all of the guilt starts to set in, all of the emotional consequence that was built up, accumulated from all of his horrible acts of executing witchcraft and hurting people. All of those sorry, all of those guilt and shame, all of those heavy emotions starts to set in, and then and he couldn't deal with it, so he becomes suicidal and depressed, and he had to reject God, as he said. So because it was so much to bear. That's how narcissists do it. That's how narcissists execute evil, because they have no they bear no emotional consequence. They have no heart. And if you have no heart, you can do anything. You can do anything.
The only thing that came out of my mouth, it wasn't even my words. I said, if you're bigger than my daddy, the devil, you show me tonight, leave me alone. And I went to this sleep. It was like anesthesia. And I ended up in this train that was going so fast. And then Jezebel was on the train calling me traitor, traitor, traitor. And make a long story short, the train hit hell. I ended up in hell. And the first thing any person says when you end up in hell, I don't belong here. And I was walking through the portals of hell. and the ground was breathing. I couldn't. It's not like solid ground. It felt like marshmallow. The ground was breathing. I was trying to escape. I hear the wailing in the background. I'm trying to escape from this place that I knew that I didn't belong there. I tried to look for a window, a door to get out, and the devil showed up in hell and said, I'm going to destroy you because I was your father. I gave you everything. I gave you powers. For 25 years, I took care of you. No one messed with you. People was afraid of you. And now you're going to leave me? And I was like so confused. And the devil was talking to me in demonic tongue, by the way. And I was kind of confused. I know I'm just confused. I don't know what I'm doing. I was trying to negotiate with the devil. And then he went to grab me in the cross of Jesus Christ and appeared in hell. And when the cross appeared in hell hit the devil, because the cross appeared between us and I had shorts and I had a shirt. I couldn't believe how this cross would appear in hell. I mean, it was not like I took it out of my pocket.
Not even that you call in the name of God, really.
I didn't even call the name of God. I didn't even know what the name of Jesus was, or what I could do with it. And the cross appeared in hell. The devil felt like he was hopeless. He felt like nothing. I couldn't believe that the powers of darkness couldn't compete to the cross of Jesus Christ. He felt like someone just slapped him. He fell. And then I ran to the portals of hell. The devil appeared again, and I said, the devil said, I'm going to destroy you. Then I show him these marks I have here. Those are my marks as a devil worshiper. I got marks here as a devil worshiper. I said, I got these marks, I destroy you. He said, that's my contract. I own you. When he went to grab me again, the cross of Jesus Christ and be in hell. And when the devil went to grab me again, the cross dropped him again. My spirit came back into my body like I was in ICU. Like, you know how they put those electrical paddles in your chest? Mm-hmm. It came into my body, and I knew that Jesus Christ loved me. And I turned my life to Jesus Christ that night. And I had $100,000 worth of witchcraft stuff in my house. I threw it all. I had human bones. I had stuff, coffins. I had, you name it. I threw it all away to follow a daddy that I couldn't see. And I traded him for a daddy I can see. And I've been a Christian for 17 years and loving Jesus. And nothing like Jesus.
We only have like 30 seconds left, but tell me about a God who is so merciful that he would pursue someone who has declared himself to be an enemy of light, an enemy of God, actively pursuing to destroy Christians and goodness in the world. Who is that God?
His name is Jesus Christ. And I tell people, if you try everything and you got the question mark, try the answer. His name is Jesus. I already tell people, try the Pepsi challenge. Try Jesus for 30 days and let me know. Email me, let me know what happens. Because once you try him, you never go back.
Your story is in this book, Armed and Dangerous. It is available on our e-store if you want to read a little bit more about it. And John, thank you so much for coming today to share your story. I know we went through it pretty quick, and I know there's a lot more. But if you've been experiencing darkness, if you've been pursuing dark powers, if you've been involved in things that you know are not good for you, hey, we know there's a way out and we can walk you out of that. We have people 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They are here to pray with you. They are here to help you along your spiritual path. There is nothing, and I want you to hear this, there is nothing that you have done in your life that God cannot forgive. Give us a call. That number is 1-866-273-4444. If you get nothing out of today's story, I want you to know there is hope. We'll be right back.
Okay, so from that we see that love is all powerful, but I would suggest to use that power lightly, because only God's love will be able to convert a Satanist. Right? Only God's love will be able to change a narcissist. No earthly entity will be able to change a narcissist, right? And believe me, I've tried to have a love for a narcissist, unconditional love, and it didn't work, right? And sometimes it works, but it didn't last. You know, the effects was not lasting. They just go back to their old ways, and they just they continue to destroy and hurt you. So use it lightly, use the power of love lightly, because it is very powerful if you have unconditional love for someone. As in Buddhism as well, we believe that loving kindness is a very high is one of the four sublime states. Sublime states is a very high state of mind where you are protected. You're protected by loving kindness. If you have loving kindness from someone, you're protected from being harmed, period. And the Buddha, there was one story where the Buddha's disciples or monks, they were meditating in a forest filled with demons and ghosts and spirits, and they were harassed and bothered by those spirits every day while they are meditating. And then they go back to they went and sought advice from the Buddha, and the Buddha asked them to go back to the forest, go right back to the forest, and meditate there with loving kindness, and have loving kindness for the ghosts, for the spirits, for the demons that are causing them harm, that are trying to disturb them, and that are trying to mess with them. So the Buddha asked them to do that, and they did that. And once they expand their loving kindness for these spirits, they begin to have the distractions go away, and they stop becoming disturbed by the spirits. The spirits start to respect them. So that is loving kindness, and that is like the power of loving kindness, and how strong it can be as a line of defense for us sometimes. But use it lightly, because the narcissists are committed to darkness, to evil, and there's nothing you can say, there's no earthly entity, as I said, that can convert the narcissist, that can even reduce their devotion to darkness, their devotion to create havoc in people's lives, to mess with people, to cause insanity. So let's go to the next source, which is from David Icke, speaking about satanic death cult, fighting the satanic death cult. So David Icke is an advocate not an advocate, but a conspiracy theorist, where he believes that the world is run by satanic people or reptilians. But I'd like to believe that, if you don't believe in reptilians or satanic cults, then you can believe that there are really, really bad people in this world. And David Icke believes that really, really bad people runs this world, and that there are a select few people that is orchestrating life events, world events, that is causing the world to go into havoc, to go into disasters, and to apocalyptic disaster, basically. So let's go into this video.
This story falls apart because it is a tissue of...
Sorry about that.
Everywhere you look, this story falls apart because it is a tissue of lies designed by a death cult, satanic death cult, peopled by psychopaths. And the biggest trait of psychopathic mentalities is lack of empathy. Imagine the deletion of empathy required to do that to America, to do that to the loved ones of those people, for a political satanic end of killing even more people in the Middle East year after year after year ever since. We are looking at one of the greatest crimes in human history, certainly in American history. In American history, absolutely. No one has gone to jail for it. And the people that were involved in it, in the cover-up, in the orchestration of it, are all going about their rich lives unmolested, while 3,000 families grieve for the rest of their life. It's infuriating.
Bothers you?
It bothers me. It bothers me because it's infuriating. It bothers me because the same people today and the same networks today are orchestrating mayhem all over the world, including every day moving closer and closer to the total control of humanity via AI connection to the human brain. These same people that are behind that.
So he spoke just now about criminals not being arrested. So that is very much like covert narcissists or narcissists narcissists in the shadows, where they cause violations and emotional distress and abuse behind closed doors, where there is no way to find an evidence. There is no concrete evidence that you can find. There is no way to persecute them, right? So that is the distressing, the frustrating thing about narcissists, that they will never be caught, right? They will always find a way out. They're sneaky little things. And sometimes we just have to leave them and accept that they'll never be caught. But speaking our truth helps. But sometimes we just have to accept that, some people are too smart to be caught by things. But never stop fighting, though, and speaking your truth. Speaking your truth helps. So let's go back.
Same people, networks that are behind the hysterical explosion of censorship of alternative information in Silicon Valley are all the same people. You look at who controls Facebook. Zionists. Who controls Google? Zionists. Who controls YouTube? Zionist, owned by Google. And these are the people that are shutting down the circulation of information to expose what the same networks are doing. And so what I've done with this book, because, if you care about truth, then you don't care about consequences, because if you care about consequences, you won't deliver the truth, because you'll be saying, this is what I know has happened, and I know I should put this out, but what are the consequences for me?
Sorry about that. Considering
consequences are a prison that allows these people to do what they do, because their currency of control is intimidation. So I wrote the book. I know what the reaction's going to be from the very networks that I'm exposing. He's anti-Semitic. He's saying it's all a Jewish plot, which, as you know, is exactly what I'm not saying. Jewish people, the Jewish community must read this book to see how they've been shafted, not just in this, but across a great range of things by this Sabbatean Frankist death cult.
So he spoke here about expounding the truth, speaking his truth, and being labeled as anti-Semitic or anti-Jewish. So they're basically the covert people who's working behind the scenes to corrupt the entire world, basically, is kind of discrediting him by saying that he's being discriminating, that he is discriminating against Jews and certain groups of people. So so that's how narcissists discredit people as well. So they discredit people by using correct methods, by playing the victim and making you seem like you are a persecutor, making you seem like you are an offender, that you have done something wrong, that you have done something unacceptable, like discriminating someone or abusing someone even, when you haven't. So let's go back.
And they can throw at me what they like. And it's not impossible, Brian, I say this towards the end of the book, it's not impossible that they'll set up some attacks on a Jewish target and blame the person that did it, or it was that David Icke book that inspired him to do it. That is not impossible, because that's how these people work, to demonize and to get the book off the market. Or we must ban this book, look what it's making people do. All this stuff is exactly how they work, and people need to be aware of this. But what happens to me doesn't matter. I am an expression of infinite awareness. And I'll continue my eternal journey of exploring forever, whatever happens to me. What I care about is that this death cult no longer controls the direction and the destiny of planet Earth and the human family, including Jewish people, by its beyond description extreme psychopathic nature, which means it has no empathy, thus no emotional consequences for whatever it does, thus there are no limits. And so if people say, and this is one of the reactions, no one would ever do that. No, you would never do that. The next lady walking down the street would never do that. These people would do that, and not only that, they'd get sexually high from doing it. That's how they work. And so what happens to me is irrelevant.
So that's very interesting. It's very similar to narcissists, where they get this orgasmic pleasure from executing, from being sadistic, right? Hurting people sadistically gives them that sexual high. So let's go back.
What happens to human society is what I care about. I'm 67. You know what I mean? I could just walk away and live my life out. But I look at my grandkids. I look at my kids. I look at other grandkids and other kids. I look at the young generations and the not so young generations, and I see what's coming for them, orchestrated by the very same death cult that was behind 9/11. And I will not rest until I've done every possible thing I can to expose them, whatever the effect of me, so we've got a chance of bringing an end to this nonsense. Because if we don't, then what Orwell thought about and wrote about is a tea party compared with what these people have in mind.
So you can watch the full episode at londonreal.tv. Or you can look more on David Icke. He says he talks a lot about how the world has basically gone to destruction. How the world has been basically corrupted by a death cult, right? So and another thing I want to talk about is David Icke also said something very important in his videos, which is the infinite consciousness that we all have. And this is crucial to help you cope with narcissistic abuse, or to help you face a narcissist whenever there is whenever there's no possible escape in sight. So the way how this works is that we need to understand that we are, as David Icke says, we are a point of attention within an infinite pool of consciousness, right? So we are, this is in line with what I said in my last video of no self, where we get to identify with whatever entity we choose. It is up to us. We define our own identity. And we are, as David Icke said, we are infinite, right? We are just a point of attention within infinite consciousness. So our existence, our current state, our current body, our current mentality is based on what we identify as me, what we identify as us, right? So that is very important to understand, because once we understand that, we can control how we experience things. We can control how we perceive abuse, how we process abuse. We can control, how we accept the abuse, right? Because when we accept an abuse, it can create trauma, it can create damage, it can cause a lot of psychological, physical, health related damage to us, or it can just pass through us. So it really relies on how we perceive the abuse, how we accept it, so how we choose to respond to it, how we deal with it. So when we accept it in the right way, when we don't identify with the narcissist, when we don't hold ourselves responsible for their actions, when we clearly could see that they are the ones creating havoc, and that we are merely being abused, that we are the one being abused and we are being manipulated, that our minds are being slowly, covertly and slowly weared away, that we are slowly being driven to insanity, that all of it is all planned, that we are not responsible for our own for what is happening to us, for the abuse that is happening to us. We are not responsible for it. When we can understand that, then all of the abuse that we face will not cause so much damage to us, right? It will be very, it would just, we would be less attached to it. We wouldn't hold so strongly to whatever is happening to us. We wouldn't be stuck in this state of constant anxiety or constant distress or shame or guilt, or I shouldn't have done that, I shouldn't have done this, why did I even talk to him, why did I even engage with him, or whatever. We wouldn't be stuck ruminating at that state. We would be able to go through life. We would be able to continue unfolding and organically exploring, flowing with the forces of the universe. So yeah, that's the main thing I want to talk about on the infinite consciousness. To not identify with the abuse, and to not get stuck in trauma. So that is all for this session. I think it's oh gosh, it's an hour and a half now. So I spent a lot of time on this. Anyways, so if you want to join me on another live session, we are going to talk about the dark side of personality, which is a book, a very comprehensive study, a very comprehensive clinical study into narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. So I will be talking about this book on Friday at 10 a.m. At GMT 2 a.m. GMT 2 a.m. on Friday at my Patreon page in the link of this video. I will add the link later. So if you want to join me on the dark side of personality, I will talk about the book on Friday. And also after this video, I'll be doing some dance therapy demonstration and dance therapy guides. If you want to join me for that, please do in like 10 minutes after this video ends. So I think I'm gonna end it here, but also check out my website, hostnomore.org, hostnomore.org, for consultations, videos, my YouTube channel for free videos, and other resources on narcissism. I also have a Facebook page and Quora if you want to follow that. I answer some questions on Quora every week. So that's all for today. Stay mindful, peaceful, and powerful, and have a nice day. See you later if you want to join me.